This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good afternoon, Rabbi Sai. As we prepare for Parshas Shoftim, and we come closer to Rosh Hashanah, and as we've mentioned many times, even though the Yemei Hadin are approaching, that is not reflected in the Haftorah that we learn, but instead we're still discussing the inyan of Nechama for 7 weeks after Teshuva all the way up to Erev Rosh Hashanah. And there's a pasuk in this week's Haftorah. When I looked at it first, it seemed like a very obscure pasuk, a pasuk that we may not be familiar with. And then after looking at it more carefully, I think it's a pasuk that everybody knows quite well. Chasaf Hashem Ezraya Kachay. God revealed His holy arm, le'enei kol hagoyim, before the eyes of all the Gentiles, v'ra'u kol afsei aretz, and all the ends of the world will see Eis Yeshuas Elokeinu, the salvation of our God. There are a number of very important questions here, and they are raised by the Bnei Yissaschar, Rabbi Tzvi Elimelech Avdinov. Now when I say, did you ever see this pasuk before? Is this pasuk familiar to you? Yeah. I don't think so. No, don't say yeah. No. No, it's not. No, it's not. No. How is it familiar to you?
It sounds like from Joshua.
Oh, okay, that's the right answer. Yes, that was the answer. At first glance, not, but there is a pismon that we sing which is based off this pasuk. Chasoyev zroya kochecha, right? Or Chasoyev zroya kochecha. We say, God, uncover, reveal your holy arm, the karav ketza Yeshua, and bring the end of the salvation. That's what we're saying. Chasav Hashem Ezra Kodshay, v'roch alav seyaretz eis Yeshua Elokeinu. So question number one is, what does it mean God should reveal His holy arm? You want to say, show your strong arm that I understand. What do you mean reveal? Like uncover. Like what's hidden beneath the arm that God needs to uncover? That's question number one. Number two, when it comes to uncovering God's arm, it's Yud Kei Vav Kei, Chasaf Hashem Es Zroya Kochai. But when it comes to salvation, it's Eis Yeshuas Elokeinu. Number three, why should God reveal His arm to the Goyim? Why not reveal His arm to us? And then a little bit later on, the Bnei Yissaschar asks a very interesting question. Any people here, Medaktikim, Baalei Dikduk? Nobody admit. Rabbi Yosef is a Baal Dikduk. Okay. There's one word here which violates the laws of regular Dikduk, and that is V'ro kol afsei aretz.
Yeah, because it should have been aretz.
It's aretz. The only time it's aretz is if it's at the end of a pasuk or an asnachta. But here it's at a zakev katan.
Many exceptions to that rule.
Really? But luckily we don't know about any others besides this one. So therefore, right? Therefore, the question is, why is it bro chal avsei aretz? It should be aretz. Says the Bnei Yissaschar, v'omer l'cha'oid al pi'ana l'taretz hadin nimsar v'roi kal avsei aretz kamatz bezakev shaloi b'mishpat klali addicted to have a le'linaked b'segal. Okay, now we're going to say a rule, which was a lot of people over the years, people have tinus on, people don't like it, people ask me about, but I still maintain it's true. Says the Medrash Tanchuma, there's a stira. Kasov Yisa Hashem Panavei Lecha. One pasuk says God will show you favoritism. God will countenance His face to you. The Kasov Echad Aimer, and one pasuk says Asher Lo Yisafanim, that He doesn't show favoritism. Oiseh Teshuva Noisei Leipanim. If he does Teshuva, God will show him favoritism. And if he doesn't do Teshuva, in other words, we have a stira. One pasuk says God will show you favoritism. One pasuk says not. The answer is if you do Teshuva, God will show you favoritism. Yachal HaKoil. I would think anyone could do Teshuva. Talmud Loimar Elecha. Therefore it says to you, V'loi le'uma me'akom, but not Goyim. Gentiles cannot do Teshuva. Gentiles cannot do Teshuva. It doesn't work.
What about Nineveh?
What about it?
Didn't they do Teshuva?
They did.
They're not good?
Did it work?
No. Yeah, 40 years later, whatever.
That's a big question on the Medrash. That's a big question on the Medrash. The Medrash says Goyim cannot do tshuva. It seems that on Yom Kippur we read about the story of Nineveh. In Nineveh, didn't Yonah tell a nation of Assyrians to do tshuva? But that's what the Medrash says. And by the way, that's how we seem to paskin. I remember there's a certain shiur I give once a year in Brooklyn, and at the end of the shiur, somebody is waiting there outside on the steps, and every year he comes over to me, Goyim can't do tshuva? No, we don't hold that way. And every year I tell him, yeah, we do hold that way. The Mabit says it, and the Ramami Pano says it, and the Chidah says it, and the Medrash Tanchuma says it. So if you could find someone who argues, I'd be very happy to know.
Maybe
but,
he's a
what?
Maybe he's a ger.
No, he's a Haimish Yid with a long beard. So Yeshiva Shia. Anyway, somebody wants to ask me, the Rambam doesn't say this. I would say the Rambam doesn't not say this. The Rambam doesn't say Goyim could do tshuva. The Rambam doesn't really discuss it. But anyway, the Achronim seem to say, based on this Medrash, that Goyim can't do tshuva. That's how the Mabit paskins. We know the Mabit's name was Rav Moshe Mitrani. He was a contemporary of the Beis Yosef. He says, look at number 5, V'achar shenisbar derech klal ikar hatshuva liyisrael. Now, in the past we've said many times, why would that be? Either tshuva works or it doesn't work. Why? If either the engine works or the engine doesn't work. Why? It's like makas dam. When a Jew drinks from the cup, it's water, and when an Egyptian drinks from the cup, it's either you could do tshuva or you can't do tshuva. So the Chidah says a beautiful idea, and this is idea advanced by the Bnei Yissaschar, and that is that our relationship with God is different than the relationship that the nations of the world have with God. How is that? That our relationship with God is our Father. Right? Like the Pasuk says in Parsha, Banim atem l'Hashem lekechem. You are the children of Hashem. You ever hear this, sometimes you hear on the radio, after all, we're all the children of the living Lord. Right? It's a bunch of rubbish. It's not true. We're not all the children of the Lord. Only the Jewish people are the children of the Lord. The Gentiles are beloved, but they're not the children of the Lord. The Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, Chaviv Adam shenivra b'tzelem. Yeah? Beloved is man that they're created in the image of God. Chavivin Yisrael shenikru banim lamakim. Fine. So what is the relationship of the Gentiles with God? They are His subjects and God is their king. Malach Elokim al Goyim. Also, that makes a big difference. Because if, let's say, your kid is sitting in your seat, are they amorid b'malchus, or could you give them reshus to sit in your chair? Can a child be given permission to sit in his father's chair? Yes. Av shemachal al kavoidoi, kavoidoi machal. How about a king? Could a king? Melech shemachal al kavoidoi, ein kavoidoi machal. Therefore, a Jew could do tshuva, because our relationship to Hashem is that of a son to a father. So since Hashem is our father, He could be moichel us. But the nations of the world are not children to Hashem. God is their king, and therefore He cannot forgive them. Melech shemachal al kavoidoi, ein kavoidoi machal. Look at number 6. Mikamakoim. Huktzas Pesach lekable b'tshuva umalas hatshuva da'anachnu banim lamakoim va'av shemachal al kvoidoi kvoidoi machal. Comes the Ramami Pano, and he asks the question that many of us are bothered by. So what did they do in Nineveh? Didn't Yonah say, "Oh, it arbaim yoim v'ninveh nepachas," and it wasn't overturned? So one thing the Malbim says is, yes, it was. They were utterly destroyed. They were. They just deferred. Goyim could defer punishment. They can't do tshuva. In fact, 120 years later, Nineveh was destroyed. Oid is gematria 80. Arbaim is 40. 80 and 40. 120 years later, Nineveh was destroyed. Goyim could defer. They can't get atonement. Look in the Ramami Pano. V'yadua she'az harasam misasam. By Goyim, I have a question. Is talking by Chazaras Hashatz one of the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach? No. So people want to know, nobody's allowed to talk by Chazaras Hashatz? No, Goyim are allowed to talk by Chazaras Hashatz. Right? So if a guy talks by Chazaras Hashatz... Now if a guy was not allowed to talk by Chazaras Hashatz, we wouldn't even warn them, because we know the halach is by Akum, as harasam hi misasam. We don't warn by the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. Okay? So therefore, Ein Teshuva Maspekes Lahem. They can't do Teshuva. Teshuva is only something that is for somebody who could be warned. Goyim are not warned. But you know how a Goy could do Teshuva? If he becomes a Ger. Ve'ein Teshuva Maspekes Lahem ad heyosim Geret Tzedek lovei b'kahal d'chsiv v'hu ka'ger ka'ezrach. Now, why can't Goyim do Teshuva? He says a different svara than the Chida. He says, "V'taima demilsa ki atshuva hi mitzvah sasei achas." It's a mitzvah sasei nesiachtu ba Yisrael outside hachemla. It's a special mitzvah given to Jews out of mercy. V'nilva hager aleim, and the Goy accompanies us, the Ger accompanies us also to have this privilege. Umi she'ena mitzuva. Anyone who's not commanded in the midst of tshuva, lav kol kaminei, he doesn't have the power limchois ka'av pisha v'cha'anan chatasa, to wipe out his sins. Even Naaman, who's only a ger toishav, couldn't do tshuva. Asidim litin esadina masha avra aleim amasim mashallah yasu. Eloshem kroivim alatikun. They are a ger toishav is close to correcting themselves. V'nakol zois b'nei Hashem. What about Ninveh? V'yal yiksha beinecha me'anshe Ninveh. Harbe tshuvas b'davar. There are many answers. What are they? Ha'echad ki riboy uchluseha haya ma'ir aleim rachamim b'shvil yud beis riboy adam she'em b'hem ched u'b'hem araba shahaya charbana avod chilek rav u'masuyim ba'olam. Means that because there were so many people in Nineveh, how does Yonah end? That there were behema rabba, meaning there were myriads of people there. The fact that there were millions of people there elicited an extra degree of rachamei shamayim. That even though no individual guy could do tshuva, but the fact that there were so many, the population was so great, God would have had mercy on them. That's the first answer. Second answer. They went out of their way to follow the halacha in a way that they weren't required, and therefore God went out of His way to give them the ability to do tshuva. In what way did they go out of their way to follow the Torah, even where it's not required? And that is, what's the halacha if you steal a brick and you build it into a building? Technically.
You would destroy the building.
You have to raise the building and remove the brick to return the brick. But there's a takana that I think Hillel made, or the Chachamim made, that mitnei takanas hashavim, we say just pay for the brick. Otherwise no one's going to do tshuva. Right. Now, a guy steals a thread and he makes a custom suit out of it. So now the nigzal says, hey, give me my thread back. He rips the thread out of the suit. The whole suit goes down the drain, so we say just pay the guy for the thread. So in Nineveh, they went out of their way to return the item that they stole. So because they went out of their way to follow the din Torah, therefore God went out of His way and He let them do tshuva. Now I would ask, Nineveh went out of their way? They had to take out the brick. When Hillel made a takana, you could pay for it. He made the takana for Goyim? I don't think so. Didn't he only make it for Klal Yisrael? Okay, that's a question I don't know the answer to. And number 3, Nineveh never did tshuva. Gimel, afheim loy nitzulu ela herech lahem apai. God just delayed punishment. L'shalem gumol tza'akasam. To pay the recompense to basically to reward them for their outcry and for the ma'asim and olam hazeh. But ulasoif neskayim behem kol chazoin nachum ha'al kushi. In the end, the whole vision came true. Sh'amar aleim kel kanoi v'noikim. God took revenge. So the bottom line is, even Nineveh were not able to do tshuva.
Why was Yonah so upset? I mean, he was upset that he would show the difference between the Anshe Nineveh and Klal Yisrael.
No, but
the Anshe,
no.
I mean, you assume normally until you heard this that the Anshe Nineveh did tshuva.
So
and Klal Yisrael couldn't.
Right. So I guess what he's saying is that they repented. It doesn't work. And ultimately, they were going to be punished. But what Yonah was upset about is, what Yonah was afraid of is they would change their ways and delay punishment, and we couldn't even do that, We couldn't even do the paltry tshuva that they did.
Well, but everyone in that generation in Nineveh who did what their version of tshuva, they were saved.
Yeah.
It wasn't until that
You mean-
grandchildren's generation The
So
person can.
so then it comes out what he's saying is, but when they went upstairs, they were punished. They were punished. They were held accountable. They didn't erase
They
the.
went downstairs, they didn't get that.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was the two words that 620 years?
Oid Arbaim. Oid Arbaim. Oid is 80 and Arbaim is 40. Okay. Bottom line is, comes the Bnei Yissaschar and he tells us, what does it mean God should reveal? Yeah, he saw it, and therefore he didn't strike him down immediately, but he was patient. But ultimately they were punished. So says Bnei Yissaschar, he says we could explain the meaning of this pasuk that God revealed His holy arm based on what we said many times from the words of Chazal, and it's paskin like that from the Gedolim, the Ramam Mipan, the Mabit, that Teshuva only helps for Jews and not for Goyim. And at first glance, it looks like corruption. It looks like a corrupt system. It looks like a corrupt system. That this concept that Tshuva only works for Yidden and not for Goyim is based on justice. Really, legally, Tshuva should not help the Kaimalon Melech Shemachal Kvoida and Kvoida Machal. Since God bore us. What does that mean, God? When do we say this language? Amusa mine baten? Could you pass me a siddur? Do we? When do we say this expression? Amusa mine baten. We say it, Av harachamim. Hu yirachim am? Amusim. Okay, that's when we say amusim. Where do we ever say amusim mine baten? Do we say it by Kiddush Savana? Do we say it in Kiddush Savana? Yes. V'lalavana amar shetischadesh ateres tiferes la'amusei baten. To those who he carried in his womb. Can you imagine such an... I don't think I ever paid attention to that. That God says... Yeah. That God says about us, that what are we? He bore us. We were carried in God's womb. What does that mean? Because we're His children. We're His children. God is a father to us. V'kaimalan av shemachal al kavoidoi kavoidoi machal al kein li Yisrael mahani tshuva. Therefore, tshuva helps. Im kein hakol be'emes v'hakol b'din. So tshuva works legally because we're His children. V'nei la'asid lavai, in the future, yismehu kol hagoyim. All the nations of the world will wonder. Lama loy mahani tshuva lahu uli Yisrael mahani. Why? The nation will wonder, it's not fair, the system's not fair. Tshuva works for you guys, not for us. V'yashu Hashem chazvam ivas hadin. They're going to think there's a corrupt system. So what's Hashem going to do? How's Hashem going to show in the future? The Goyim are going to say this is not fair. The system's corrupt. Tshuva works for these people, not for us. You know what Hashem's going to do? He's going to reveal His holy arm. What's on God's holy arm? His tefillin. And what does it say in the tefillin of God? Mi ka'amcha Yisrael goy echad ba'aretz. No. We're not all the same. Not all the nations of the world are the same. Zroya kachehim tefillin demari alma. Like it says, all the parshas of tefillin are written on His arm. It's not the pshat God wears tefillin. His arm is tefillin. Like Chazal Darshan, God swore by His right hand, that's the Torah. He swore by His left hand is the tefillin. What does it say in God's tefillin? Mi goy gadol asher lo yelakim kroivim elav, kashem elakenu b'chol kareinu elav. Targum says we're able to have our tefillas answered at a time of tzara. The meaning is, since we are karoivav, amusa mine baten, Kiviyachal, we're banim mamish. By the way, what does it say in the pasuk on God's tefillin? Mi gagal shalikim kroivim elav. It doesn't say kroivim. Kroivim elav. close to Him, not to anybody else, because He's our Father. That's why our Teshuva helps. That's why our Tefillah helps. Av shemachal kvoidoi kvoidei machal. In the end of days, the Goyim are going to say, God, why do you only accept the Teshuva of Klal Yisrael? So you know what God's going to do? He's going to say, look at my arm. On my arm it says why I accept the Teshuva of Klal Yisrael. It says, Ki mi goy gadol shaloi Elokim kroivim elav. But the Umay Sa'olam, Melech, K'dachsiv, Melech Elokim al Goyim. And Melech shemachal al kvoidei kvoidei machal. Memela, when Hashem reveals His arm, all the far-flung corners of the world will see the tefillin of the Master of the world, that we are close to Him, we are banim l'kel chai, and therefore, listen to this, Yud Kei Vav Kei will reveal His arm. But when the Yud Kei Vav Kei reveals His arm, you know what the Goyim are going to understand? That Teshuva works me'ikar hadin Elokim. Teshuva works legally. This is what it means. Ro kalav se'aretz es Yeshuas Elokeinu. That demonstrates on the legal right for Teshuva to work. Let's give one more example. You know, it says that Klal Yisrael came across the Yam Suf, and then Klal Yisrael said, "Where's God? Where's God? Where is He? Where'd He go?" And what happened right after? Vayava Amalek. So the Medrash says, what does the fact that we asked, where is God, have to do with Amalek coming? So the Medrash gives a mashal. There's a child who's riding on the shoulder of his father. And he sees his father's friend. He said, hey, do you know where my father is? So his father says, you're riding on my shoulders. You want to know where I am? I'll tell you where I am. He throws him off the shoulders. And what happens? A dog comes and bites him. An enemy comes and hurts him. You have the chutzpah, I'm putting you on my shoulders, you want to know where I am? So the father throws him off, you'll find out in a minute where I am. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I took you out of Mitzrayim. I carried you on Anani HaKavod like a father. And you want to know, where am I? I'll let you know where I am. Vayava Amalek. Now we can understand the diktuk of what? V'ro chalaf se aretz. So now I'm going to tell you a Kabbalistic rule. Why is the kamat by the zakef? It should be a segal. V'yizboer, I'm not available, yeah? V'yizboer, al pi ma shekasav, it becomes clear based on what's written in my drushim for Chanukah. You want to hear a beautiful diak? It's almost Chanukah time. Okay? In the Alanisim we say Kisha'amda Malchus Yavan Harasha Al Kisha'amda Malchus Yavan Al Amcha Yisrael. First word Amcha Yisrael. And then at the time of the Yeshua it says V'yachar kach ba'u banecha. What happened? The beginning of the story were Amcha, were just his nation, and the end of the story were his children. So the answer is V'hu al pi ma shedarshu Chazal. He quotes this Medrash of Vayava Amalek, where we ask, where is God? And God says, you want to know where I am? I'll tell you where I am. He started to call out, where's my father? And the father throws him. The same thing when it comes to Malchus Yavan. At first, Malchus Yavan came al Amcha Yisrael to make us forget the Torah. By the way, how did Yavan come to make us forget the Torah? They wanted us to learn various philosophies and Greek wisdom. And they wanted us to forget the Torah by delving into what's called Chachmas Chitzonios. But at the time of the salvation it says, V'yachar kach bo banecha. We realized we are the children who are born by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We are naturally drawn after God like a child to his father. You see, if you don't trust somebody, you need to philosophize and figure it out and understand, I don't understand, and to delve. But a child just has trust in his father. So but when the Klal Yisrael saw that God saved us from the Yevanim and that their philosophy wasn't doing anything for us, so we didn't need philosophia, but we relied on our emunah, which is lamala min hachachma. What is above chachma? Al pi Kabbalah, above chachma is keser. Above chachma is even keser. The nekuda of kamatz, the Zayar says, is the keser. Therefore it says, V'ro chalav se'aretz, Bekamatz, meaning we realized everything is bedin, that we are naturally drawn after HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we don't need philosophia, and that's how Teshuva helps. The bottom line is, regarding the questions we've asked, number one, what does it mean God will reveal His arm? It means He will show the nations of the world the tefillin. On the tefillin it says, we are related to God. Mi kashem Elokeinu, umi goy gadol ashaloy Elokim, kroivim elav. And when the nations of the world see that, they will recognize that we legally have the right to do tshuva, as God is our Father and we are His children. And that's why He's going to reveal it to the Goyim, and ultimately it will be Elokeinu. Rabbi says, so when it comes to Chanukah, what do we ask God? We say, Chasoif zeroya kodshecha, v'karev ketz hayeshua. Reveal your arm and bring the Mashiach. Now, until today we thought reveal your arm is show your might and redeem us. But now what does reveal your arm mean? Show the world your tefillin. So what do the tefillin got to do with bringing the geula? So maybe we could suggest, when God reveals the tefillin to the world, what is He showing the world? That we are His children. The Medrash says there's certain things that a father has to do to his son. He has to teach him Torah. And one of the things he has to do is, a father's chayiv liftoi says, benoi. Look at number 12. Ki savayo l'eretz moishvaisechem. Kama dvarim chayiv adam lasos levnoi. Shana Rabbi Seinu, chamisha dvarim ha'av chayiv lasos laben. Who's the father? Zeh HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Who's the ben? Elu Yisrael. A father's chayiv lamos benoi. God maled us. Ha'av chayiv lefdoisai. A father is obligated to redeem his child. So perhaps we say, chasoif zeroya kodshecha. Reveal your arm, show the world we are kroivim elav, that we are your child. And once we are your child, then Ribbon Shem v'karev ketz hayeshua, you are now obligated to redeem us. So we should be zoiche by reading this Haftorah. Chasaf Hashem Ezraya Kodshai. It should become manifest to the world that we are banim la'makayim, and thereby we are able to take advantage of the great gift of tshuva. And we know gedola tshuva shemekareves es hagula. We should be zoicha to gula shleima. Meher v'yameinu. Amen.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.